What's up, Fight Family? This is Contemplate Boxing. Just finished watching a phenomenal fight. The trilogy fight between Tyson, the Gypsy King Fury, WBC and Lineal Heavyweight Champion, and former WBC Heavyweight Champion Deontay, the Bronze Bomber Wilder. A lot of individuals were coming into this fight, with a lot of different thoughts regarding both men. Um, I'll say this. I'll lead off by saying this. I won't be able to understand anybody not giving respect to both of these fighters after the performance that they just put on. I'll say this again. I won't understand any fight fans or critics or other fighters, whoever, not giving respect to both of these men after the performance that they just put on, because they put on a phenomenal performance for their third fight. Of course, Tyson Fury, he came in as a heavy betting favorite. There were a lot of individuals that thought that Tyson Fury was just going to steamroll Deontay Wilder, similar to what he did in their second fight. Tyson Fury himself believed that he was going to steamroll Deontay Wilder like he did, or rather faster than in the second fight. Tyson Fury had even stated this: hey, I'm going to end this faster than the last time. Deontay Wilder, of course, he was fighting for redemption, fighting for revenge, because he felt that he was wronged in the second fight. Regardless of what you think, these men put on a phenomenal performance. For myself, going into this fight, I actually thought the biggest factor was going to be the difference in preparation for these two men. I had some questions regarding Tyson Fury because, David Hay had said something during the weigh-in, during BT Sports coverage of the weigh-in, that I also kind of had on my mind. I was definitely in agreement when David Hay had pointed out how Tyson Fury didn't really seem to keep in shape between the second fight and the lead up to this third fight. Going into this, when Tyson Fury weighed in at, I think, like 273 pounds, I didn't think this was the same type of weight as in the second fight. I didn't think this was healthy weight. We saw some pictures of Tyson Fury, in between the second fight and this fight, in which he seemed to really blow up. He seemed to really let himself go. He didn't really seem to be staying in shape. But then he started to take his focus completely off Deontay Wilder and start to focus, supposedly, on an undisputed bout with Anthony Joshua. And then, of course, when the legal proceedings between his team and Wilder's team fell apart and ruled in Wilder's favor, he then had to put his concentration and his focus back on Deontay Wilder. Whereas on the other side of that table, Deontay Wilder seemed very much focused on Tyson Fury ever since the second loss. I believe that was back in February of 2020. So it seemed, while Deontay Wilder was obsessed, or seemed to be preparing almost obsessively for one individual, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, in the lead up to this, didn't seem to be preparing with that same obsessiveness that he had prepared for Deontay Wilder in the first and the second fight. So I thought preparation was going to play a really big role in this particular fight. Deontay Wilder seemed a little bit more prepared leading up, or I thought he seemed more prepared leading up to this fight than Tyson Fury was. Whereas in fights 1 and 2, Tyson Fury was more prepared for Wilder than Wilder Fury. This is what I thought was going to play a big role. I do think that this still did play a role because Deontay Wilder still was effective at some points, even though there were some points early on that Tyson Fury seemed like he probably was going to steamroll Deontay Wilder again. I believe it was in the third round. Wilder dropped Tyson Fury twice. It seemed to have him pretty hurt. Tyson Fury, you got to give credit to his recuperative abilities to get dropped twice like that and still be able to come back and do the damage that he actually did. Deontay Wilder, you see he started the fight off throwing the heavy jab, to Fury's body, throwing the heavy right hand to Fury's body. Fury, came in, putting his weight on him, making sure that Deontay Wilder felt that weight. Kind of reminded me a little bit of what you would see Lennox Lewis do in the past with smaller fighters, or what you would sometimes see Vladimir Klitschko or Vitaly Klitschko do, to fighters in the past that were smaller than them, at least, really wear them down. You also saw Tyson Fury in the clinch really start to throw some shots to Wilder's body as he was putting his weight all over him. You didn't see Tyson Fury's jab as much. You did see it, but much less than I initially anticipated seeing Tyson Fury's jab. But when Fury did use that jab, he used it to very good effect. Both men got hurt. Both men took some phenomenal shots from one another. Wilder, he definitely was taking some punishment. There were multiple times that I thought Fury was going to get Wilder out of there, but the fight would continue. Wilder would get hurt, and then he would fight back as best as he could. Sometimes effectively, sometimes not nearly as effective. Towards the end, right before the fight really, ended, I started to get a little bit worried because there were some shots that Deontay Wilder was taking, and the way his head was moving, I fear for fighters when their head starts to move that way. So I started thinking, hey, the ref is going to want to stop this here pretty soon. I had thought the ref would have stopped, at some different points, but Wilder was able to fight himself back into the fight. But when the knockout did finally come, I'm glad the ref didn't even bother to count, because, it started to look quite a bit dangerous. I'm glad the ref didn't, do a count. The way Wilder fell, when any fighter falls like that, I mean, that's actually kind of a scary thing. I believe, once Wilder left the ring, he's probably headed to medical evaluations. I initially was disappointed that Wilder had just left the ring. One of my friends did remind me, however, was like, hey, he's probably headed to medical eval, which is necessary. For both men, phenomenal performance. For the heavyweight division, this was good. I think this will go down historically as a great trilogy. I think this will be something that's remembered fondly by fight fans, or at least I'll remember this trilogy fondly. I don't get caught up in a lot of the conspiracy theory, a lot of the drama that has kind of followed this rivalry between Fury and Wilder. What I do follow is a phenomenal rivalry, a good rivalry that brought a lot of drama to the heavyweight division, a division, that definitely needed a strong rivalry. And that's what we got as fight fans. Unfortunately, sports fans are never really satisfied. So I don't anticipate, fight fans as a whole appreciating this fight or this trilogy as much as I have. I don't think fans will, appreciate it nearly as much, or really realize, what we had the privilege to really witness, tonight and back in 2020 and then back in 2018. But we saw the end of something phenomenal, and I'm glad that I was able to witness it. I'm very thankful. So the next question is, where do both fighters go from here? Well, for Tyson Fury, we know that it wasn't long ago that the WBC ruled that the winner of Fury versus Wilder 3 has to meet the winner of Dillian Whyte versus Otto Wallin. Should Dillian Whyte defeat Otto Wallin, his next opponent, is supposed to be Tyson Fury. Now, the question that is on my mind is, should Tyson Fury get past the winner of Dillian Whyte versus Otto Wallin, and should Alexander Usyk win the rematch against Anthony Joshua, which I do believe that he will do. I do believe that he'll retain those titles. Can we then immediately see an undisputed matchup between the winner of Tyson Fury, Dillian White, or, sorry, let me not sell Otto Wallin short. Forgive me for that. Between Tyson Fury and the winner of White Wallin versus the winner of Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. Fight family, I had a blast tonight. Enjoyed watching a fight. I hope y'all enjoyed watching a fight as well. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Please comment. Let me know what your thoughts were. Hope y'all enjoyed the fight. Hey, peace. God bless.